Hello and welcome to Under the Umbrella. I'm WDTN Plus meteorologist Melissa Barrington, and today we are joined by Lieutenant Colonel Chandra Pasillas, who is an assistant professor from the Air Force Institute of Technology, and she is here to talk about her career. Hello and welcome.
Thank you, Melissa.
Well,
Excited to be here today.
I'm glad to have you here, especially because we don't see as many women meteorologists coming through here. So this is really a good thing for us today.
Awesome.
So can you first of all tell me a little bit about your career path, and also did you plan to become a meteorologist when you entered the Air Force?
Yes. So my path to the Air Force was through the Air Force Academy, first off, out of high school. I knew I wanted to be a civil engineer or meteorologist. I like to build things and I love the weather. So I declared meteorology my second year. I knew that since I wasn't going to be aviation qualified because I'm colorblind, that I would be going into meteorology from there on. As a meteorologist, I've got 21 years plus in the Air Force, and in that time, I've done a wide range of jobs, of anything from some of the terminal aerodrome forecasts that you heard from Jim the other week about for local spot areas and air crew, to regional forecasting and almost global forecasting for senior leaders and decision makers across the Air Force, and some support to Navy and then Army support as well.
Okay. Why did you choose the Air Force, or are you a military family?
So I did grow up near a military base in Florida, and my family did support the DoD with civilian research sort of roles. In high school, we had an exchange student from Venezuela come and talk to my Spanish class. And he talked about compulsory service to the government, whether it was military or other roles, before they went into college. And that was required. That sounded interesting and respectable to me. And so I said, it makes sense. Let's do some time to the nation and then college. And I learned about the Air Force Academy, which allowed me to do both. I didn't know if it'd be a career or not. But, this many years later, now I'm essentially have retirement on the horizon. That's 25 years later.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. So growing up, you said you were from Florida, right?
Yes.
Okay, so were there any major weather events? There's got to be, because you're from Florida, that influenced your career becoming a meteorologist?
Yeah. So a couple key ones, I'd say elementary school. We were on like old school pen and paper with tracking Hurricane Andrew, getting the updates going, okay, lat long, speed, size. And so that was kind of one to see how that happened, and it missed us because we were in the panhandle. And then 4th, 5th grade, I'd see like, hey, we have thunderstorms every afternoon. What's going on with this? There's some sort of pattern here. Get us kind of inside for the rain and say, hey, it's all clear. We can go back out. I now know as a meteorologist, that's about the land breeze, sea breeze effect, why that happens. And then in middle school, my grandpa gave me some photographs of the Earth. And I thought it was pretty neat, like seeing the whole Earth and the weather. And apparently looking back, it was some of the early satellite imagery, full disc, that I didn't know about. And then the last one that kind of solidified it would probably be Hurricane Opal, 1995. We're about to get its 30th anniversary coming up here, and it was a super late season storm. We lived about a block away. We decided not to evacuate that night because it was only looking at a Category 2, 3. We woke up and it was a Category 5, a little bit too late. And so we went, had to stay for that, stayed with family, and I actually did a weather log. I didn't know that until about a few months ago when my grandpa actually was like, hey, I came across this and sent that to me. So people who tend to have interest in weather, it does see from when they're young most often.
Yeah, that's a very common thing. So how scared, what was it like going through Hurricane Opal, like being a kid?
So I was in, I guess, 95. I was in middle school, and it was like massive thunderstorms. I mean, we ended up having a couple of tornadoes off of that, but it was when you get the eye, because we had a direct landfall there in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. It gets very eerily calm, and it's kind of like the birds come back out. Everyone thinks it's normal. If you kind of think like after an eclipse, when you have the quiet period of your eclipse, and things change. But during that time, we'd seen the trees go down at the neighbors, et cetera, and then the strong winds and rain again.
Did you go outside during the eye?
Absolutely. Went to check some of the damage, see what did we have so far. And then also in high school, I had a tornado that hit the house right next to us.
Oh,
so
my.
Our house wasn't taken. That was just the small ones from severe thunderstorm activity. But I guess I've been interested in weather most of my life.
Did you have severe flooding with Opal at all at your house?
Our particular area did not. However, Okaloosa Island, if you ever look at some of the historical pictures, I mean, the entire Highway 98 was washed out. We had to rebuild the dunes. it is a barrier island that is meant to protect the mainland. That's part of how nature is established, but then we choose to build on them. So, we have those sort of risks.
Yeah, and you mentioned Andrew. Andrew was definitely one of those first storms that people could really track because it was so well defined, Category 5, going straight into the panhandle of Florida. That must have been quite an experience to track that.
So Andrew ended up actually being in the peninsula along Homestead was the military base.
I meant the peninsula, excuse me.
No, that's all right. I just don't want to freak people out or think
you're right.
about a different storm.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah, but it was pretty awesome to be able to have that opportunity. We didn't really understand the magnitude effects, though, at that time as children.
Yeah, a lot of lessons were learned from Andrew, of course. So now you teach, right?
Yes.
And tell me a little bit about your meteorology classes that you teach.
So what I teach right now is I've got AFIT has 2 different meteorology programs. We've got our master's in atmospheric science, so with a big focus towards the physics and dynamic side, and that is our master's degree that we offer there, faculty doing that. And then we also have, as Jim mentioned a couple weeks ago, the basic meteorology program, which is a graduate certificate that takes STEM majors who are joining the Air Force, and they had different degrees, not meteorology, and they're going to become meteorology officers. And so we take them through the core meteorological courses that are outlined for National Weather Service, government work, et cetera, in 1 year so they can be qualified meteorologists for the Air Force.
And these are all enlisted?
They are all officers.
Okay.
And so it's our officer pipeline for people who are not degreed meteorologists coming in. And we actually have 14 this round. This is our second round that it's here at AFIT. But the program has existed since the 1940s because the Air Force as an institution has never been able to get enough just degreed meteorologists in for the meteorological needs we have. And so they used to send them to universities to get these additional classes, and now we've brought it to here in that way. But it's great because it gives us a balance of people, of experts that also have other specialties besides just meteorology from their undergraduate time to balance it all out together.
So do you currently have any students that came in as meteorologists, or are all of them officers right now?
So all of ours are officers here at AFIT. We do our master's program. Typically, they've been weather officers, and then they go away, do some operational time, and then come and get their master's degree. We've got 4 of them starting this year, and I'm teaching the dynamics class. Actually, we started it a little bit with some refresher this past week. And they are all lieutenants and captains. And then our basic MET program, this is their first assignment coming into the Air Force. And so they're all second lieutenants.
Okay. What's the ratio of women to men? I know a lot of meteorology programs don't have as many women, and has that changed over the years as well?
So that's hit and miss, I will say. I think Air Force, we see a little bit more. Meteorology is one of the STEM fields that we see a few more women in general. In our master's cycle this time, we don't have any women in this group, but we have historically as a balance. It's, who's interested in obtaining those advanced degrees, or are they being taught at AFIT or a different institution because maybe we don't have that specialty. For the basic MET program of our 14, I want to say we actually have, if I have to go down the name list really quick, we have 6, I'd say. So we're a little about 40-50%. When I was in my undergrad, we had a class of 12 for the program, and we were 5 women, 7 men, so we were still at around that 40% as well. And then in my master's school, we had 6 of us in my specific cohort, and 2 of us were women, so we tend to be around that 30 to 50%, I'd say.
Okay, well, that's good. At least it's not like a class of 1 woman or whatever. At least we're seeing some balance there.
Being military, women make up approximately 20% of the military, so you have that as that start point as expecting to be a 1 in 5. But in our specific career field, I would say that we are more represented in that way as far as women go for a specific specialty. And in our enlisted and in our officers, I'd say we are much closer to almost double that. I don't have exact numbers though.
That's okay. So now you're a professor, but before that you were actually an actual operational forecaster, right?
Yes. So there's different career paths that you can go as far as being a weather officer in the Air Force. And actually, we are also now not just weather. When I came in, we only focused on weather, but we also had the roles of things like being familiar with the environment and volcanoes and earthquakes and other aspects. So now we talk about being weather and environmental specialists. So that way we make sure that we show that we have that aspect of hydrology, volcanology, any sort of other aspects that typically you're the person that deals with Earth, they expect you to have some knowledge on. So typically we will start as operational forecasters, similar to the airfields, like it was mentioned before, doing aviation forecasts for small areas, doing aircraft forecasts, and then as you go as an officer and grow through the ranks, then you will have take on more responsibilities with management or decision making for senior leaders and larger areas, whether that's working at an air operations center for an entire theater and large level planning or different aspects in that. So I started in that, and even with there, we can have people who do research, and so you need to have a certain percentage having advanced academic degrees. So I did my master's in meteorology for that, and it really didn't translate to academic till about year 12 or 13 when I knew I was still interested in doing maybe more research and more teaching, and so that's when I went back for a PhD. But that's not everyone in our career field does that. It's not a requirement, and it doesn't mean that you can't go back to leading people in the operational mission after that.
And you did this over quite a few years. It wasn't like you just did one thing and then you did another. You spaced this out, right?
Oh, yeah. So when I joined, we had a lot of, often you'd be picked up for lots of different moves, not quite as much stability as now. In my 21-year career, I've been stationed in 9 different locations. And so that's 9 different opportunities and jobs within those areas to explore. A lot of my time was spent overseas. About a third of my time was doing Army support as well.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to continue our conversation.
Outstanding.
We will be right back. Well, hello and welcome back. Today, on Under the Umbrella, we are joined by Lieutenant Colonel Chandra Pasillas, and she is continuing to tell us more about her military meteorology career, which has been very interesting. And you were talking a little bit before about places that you have been stationed. So can you give me a list or tell me a few of the most memorable places at least?
So I've did 3 different assignments in Europe between Sembach Air Base, Germany, Vicenza, Italy with Army support, and then Wiesbaden, Germany back several years later with Army support. I was lucky deployments to Romania, Liberia, Afghanistan.
Wow.
And then also stationed in Hawaii, working support for the entire Pacific Theater.
Wow, you've been all over the world. Amazing.
So, and there are a couple others in there, Fort Bragg, Maxwell, Alabama, here at Wright Pat, school in Monterey, California, and Fort Collins, Colorado. But definitely all over the world. As meteorologists, you get some great locations because anywhere that we have aviation, we have airfields that need to be run. And so we need to be there doing that weather. So you have a more opportunity in that sort of sense.
So you've provided me some pictures. I'm going to pull some of them up, and can you describe some of them as we see them?
Sure.
These are you.
Okay, so I guess I put a couple in here. That picture of the 3 of us is one of the awesome opportunities I got to do as an airborne personnel, jumping into Normandy for the 64th anniversary. You can see teaching at AFIT in one of our classrooms with our students, and then the picture that's the throwback, as you can see, based on the uniform. And the computers is my meteorology class at the Air Force Academy, especially since I knew you said you were interested in seeing the men and women ratios
absolutely.
And that group of 12, actually, only 2 of us became meteorologists, ironically enough, because the other 10 were rated and became pilots and navigators and air battle managers and sorts like that.
Oh, wow. So it looks like one of these pictures here that you're actually like sitting in a plane. Is that right?
Yes.
And you mentioned that you jumped in Normandy. What was that like?
So part of Army support, certain units, you're supporting airborne units, and so you do have that opportunity to go to jump school or possibly jump master school.
That picture.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's just one of the aircraft opportunities. We do static line alongside the Army with that, and so you're jumping from anywhere from 800 to 1,500 feet off the ground. Parachutes pulled for you automatically after about 5 seconds, 6 to 7 outside of a helicopter. It's pretty awesome. Experience. It's also, there's safety aspects with that. And then when you are actually doing forecasting for that, you have very small winds thresholds that you can use. And so that's when you start to realize how important accurate wind speeds and directions can be when you can think about the number of lives if someone has a poor exit, poor landing, the winds are too strong and can really cause a lot of issues.
Can they parachute in rain?
So with respect to thresholds, we tend to make sure that we have a certain low enough winds and that we don't have rain
Or clouds.
clouds because you need to be able to see through
Yep.
and you need your pilots to be able to see the drop zone. Obviously, when you have things like real world operations, some of this stuff, if you think about that, airborne personnel have gone into historically, that weather conditions some may have been less than ideal, but that's a combat situation versus training. And so for training, we want to make sure we have the clear blue 22 low winds.
Yeah. Okay. So, speaking of forecasts, was there any particular forecast in your forecasting career that turned out as you expected or didn't turn out as you expected that kind of sticks out in your mind?
I'd say the forecast on thinking influential. One is doing preparation for humanitarian assistance and disaster relief when I was in the Pacific because we were Air Operations Center. So we had to handle the entire theater. And we knew we had Super Typhoon Haiyan in 2013 going to the Philippines. And so we knew that there would be aid expected. And we were trying to figure out what's the timing of crosswinds to be able to get in as soon as possible for our air crew to be able to start provide relief as long as they would be able to land or if not airdrop in. That's one. And then honestly, another one that I don't necessarily say if we got it right or wrong, but was, oh man, a lot of pressure would be Typhoon Haiyan. So another tropical system in 2015, and it was coming on as up for a possibility of hitting Wake Island, which only has about a 12 to 16 foot elevation. And storm surge was looking to be 12 to 15 feet. So it was giving guidance on what do we expect the system to do? Will it shift or not? Will the surge be accurate? And then we ended up making a recommendation and guidance about evacuating. So they evacuated about 125 personnel. The system did shift, but this was within 12 hours. So, how you can have a storm approach can change what level winds you get, how much rain, what sort of storm surge you might have. And so they didn't see as much damage as we first thought. They brought the special operations groups to paratroop back in. You could look up the article and then brought everyone back to safety. But several decades before, about 15 years before, they had seen the island was completely destroyed by a storm. So it was, what sort of precautions should you be taking? Because they are very remote, like thousands of miles away from any sort of relief.
So they're really on their own.
Yeah.
Okay. So why did you decide to make a career change then from operational meteorology to academia?
Well, I think part of it was the timing, as I knew I always wanted to teach like since middle school, and seeing that opportunity to do some research and teaching, I felt, why not give it a try? The first time I applied, I actually didn't get it picked up. The second time I did. So, hey, you don't succeed the first time, try again later.
Yep.
Don't give up. And I've really enjoyed it, actually, being able to bring a new program here, being able to teach graduate students, teaching people who already have an underpinning of meteorology, that next level, introducing it to new people and seeing the aha moment when they start to put those pieces together has been pretty rewarding.
So was it difficult to go from operational meteorology, taking that break academically and then switching over back to school? Was that hard? Because there's so much math and so much science.
There's definitely a mindset. And so, obviously this is why you see a lot of people go straight into master's programs or doctoral programs while they're younger instead of coming back as more senior students. Pros and cons. If you've got some operational experience, it helps you guide your research differently.
Oh, yeah.
From that perspective, but you get more catch up. Playing catch up on getting back into the academics. Most definitely, I saw that my first time with my master's, but then the break between master's and doctoral as well. My master's degree, what was the technology at the time? I was doing my master's in Excel, and then I come back for a doctoral, and I didn't know how to code, and coding is absolutely necessary. And they're like, hey, how are you going to do this class project or your dissertation? Come figure it out. So then I had to get proficient in Python for that ability.
Wow. So you definitely had to catch up because technology is constantly changing.
Yes, absolutely.
So you mentioned earlier that you teach dynamics, atmospheric dynamics. And do you teach anything else? And you also mentioned you do research too. What's your research specialization?
So lots of questions quickly there.
Yeah,
I know we're running shorter on time. So yes, currently I mainly teach dynamics to the graduate and to the basic MET program. And then I've also historically taught general circulation and tropical weather and remote sensing, cloud satellite. My specialty is in remote sensing of clouds at night through different wavelengths. And that's where I guide my research. I've had students take that into tropical cyclone center positions. I have a student right now, and she's going to be working on bringing that for nighttime fog forecasting so we can be more accurate on the timing of fog coming in and dissipating. and identifying these larger fog banks at night, because through visible infrared, there's a small temperature difference. And so it's a lot harder to see this on satellite, unlike when it's the daytime and we have visible energy and the sunlight is being reflected, and you can see the clouds a lot easier in satellite because we don't obviously have observations at every single point.
So how have they changed over your career?
So satellite before my career has had significant changes, but even within my career, the number of wavelengths that we have access to, the number of satellites out there, being able to have more data bandwidth so we can have more frequency of satellite data. We can have different sizes, be able to move the features to really zoom in on things for, say, 1 minute repetition or 5 minute versus a satellite disk that maybe comes over every 30 minutes. The refresh rate has changed, and revisit time. We're also looking at a lot of multi-spectral imagery, which is taking different wavelengths a lot more frequently, and even using synthetic imagery to make new cloud, not say make new clouds, but make different things appear easier. And even some of that's coming in with what can artificial intelligence do through machine learning with satellite to try to have better detection of clouds or water vapor, lightning, other features. When I came online, we didn't have what's called now the GLM or Global Lightning Mapper, where we can actually see lightning from satellite and see how it grows across different systems, and have that. You used to only have ground trackers where you'd then have to have that detection from the ground. So then if we didn't have sensors nearby, you didn't necessarily know what was happening with respect to thunderstorm activity for safety of pilots. You had to make assumptions based on expecting thunderstorms in those areas. So satellite has significantly improved forecasting, not just with respect to like hurricanes and weather fronts, but even the mesoscale weather as well, or small scale.
And you mentioned our students are starting to use and develop machine learning and AI into weather forecasting. How do you see this going like in the future here with the future of meteorology?
So there is a lot of AI and ML, so artificial intelligence, machine learning being done. That is a lot of the cutting edge. At AFIT, we have each one of our researchers, each of our professors have worked with machine learning in some form, myself included. It is definitely a way, whether it is just being able to consolidate data and go through that faster, or creating new systems, incredible. Being able to improve accuracy. However, there are things and why you still need your traditional dynamics backgrounds is being able to understand, making sure that any models that they have are still based in physics and still based in physical, what we sense, and it's not just pattern recognition. So I think it's going to help improve certain things. We're creating, there's synthetic radar to be able to see what's happening, warn on site. So as you sometimes when we've got the tornadoes, you see, you guys are up there saying, oh, it looks like we've seen a tornado signature. Look at this gate, look at the colors, being able to, instead of having a person recognize it, being able to have something out there recognize it quicker to get the warning out for people for safety. So there's ways to leverage and have it help us, but I don't think it's ever actually going to fully replace forecasters in the loop for things.
Yeah, because you still need to have like observers, and you need to have people understand what is going on. Yeah. So lots of interesting stuff. Well, I'd like to thank you very much for joining me today on Under the Umbrella. It's been a pleasure having you. So many different insights, and I would like to thank you also for watching Under the Umbrella. And until next time, we will see you. And if you have a topic that you are interested in, please email me at undertheumbrella@wdtn.com. Have a great day.